Thanks to the transfer portal, Texas A&M's wide receiver room has gone from an issue to one of the best units in the SEC.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm host Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. On today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about how elite this offense is going to be if you get good quarterback play. We're going to talk about what you have to do to improve this defense this offseason via the portal, via development, different things there. But we're going to start the show with some massive, massive news for the Aggies. And that is the fact that KC Concepcion committed and signed to Texas A&M. I'll tell you this. Concepcion was a name that really popped up early into the transfer portal for the Aggies. I just really didn't think, knowing you'd already brought in Hudson and you'd already brought in Craver, I just didn't see the Aggies landing Concepcion. He was obviously, like I said, a big name that popped up early in the portal, came in on a visit, and I was really excited about him. I'm still a believer in Hudson. I love his upside. But when it comes to what you are getting this season right now, Concepcion is the best player the Aggies could have gotten in the portal. And, I think that he is going to come in and immediately this second be your wide receiver one. Now, once again, Concepcion is no old man. He was a sophomore this season. This was his second year of college football, which has really helped play in to a massive, massive theme for the Aggies, which is this room is young and this room is elite. I've seen a lot of folks on social media, Twitter, kind of joking, a lot of Texas fans mostly, joking and saying, well, who these players are. This wide receiver room's in a darn good spot now. It's one of the best rooms in the SEC now, in my opinion. Especially if you're talking about upside with Craver and Hudson and Concepcion and Miles. I mean, this is going to be a room. And then, of course, Bussy. Now, I'll tell you this. I am a little – I don't know, is scared the right word to use? I'm not sure. But if Terry Bussey does end up hitting the portal, that would be extremely, extremely, extremely painful. Now, he said a weird Instagram post, not saying he's going to, but that's something to monitor. But, assuming Bussey does stick around, think about that room. Jerome Miles, Terry Bussey, KC Concepcion, Hudson, and Craver. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Those five guys right there, plus Noah Thomas still around. This Texas A&M wide receiver room goes from the most significant issue on this roster to probably the best room on this roster, just like that. Now, the thing that really gets me fired up about this is something I've talked about a lot over the last, since the Elko era began, which is he has done an absolute heck of a job figuring out issues and finding solutions. Coach Elko has been incredible at this aspect of coaching, at this aspect of the portal. We all know that the portal is supposed to patch holes on your roster. That's the job of the transfer portal. And I think to this point in his tenure, Mike Elko has done a heck of a job at that. I think that he did a pretty great job in the portal last year with secondary, getting the player. You had some hits, you had some misses. So I think you could argue we thought he was getting an A+ for the portal job with the secondary. I'd say he probably got a B+ probably, if you can make that argument. I don't see a way in the world this receiver room isn't an A+ in the portal. I mean, Concepcion is a proven elite player. And that's the thing. Proven elite players did well. Will the Blanket Lee did well for Texas A&M this year. Concepcion, through 2 years, in 2023, 71 catches for 839 yards and 10 touchdowns. Last season, or this season, you could argue, 53 receptions for 460 yards and 6 touchdowns. He also ran in 2023, carried the ball 41 times for 320 yards, carried it 19 this year for 36 yards. The yards per carry were not as great there, but 2 touchdowns on the ground. So, I mean, he's a guy that you can use in a lot of different ways. In this room now, I mean, what I love most about this, in all honesty, is that you have more than just upside. You have upside in Hudson. I think you have a proven player / upside in Craver, and you have a proven elite college wide receiver in KC Concepcion. I don't see a way in the world this wide receiver room is not dominant next year. And it's funny because I'll tell you all this. When we landed Hudson and Craver, like I said a moment ago, I really, my hope for the Aggies finding a way to get, Concepcion decreased. I just didn't see it happening. I mean, if you're KC Concepcion, now you've also got to remember that he's a guy, I think he could go just about anywhere in the country and be the number 1 or number 2 option. So knowing that, I just feel like there was a different landing spot for Concepcion. I just didn't know when they brought in Hudson and Craver, already had Noah Thomas, Bussy, Drum Miles coming as a freshman. I didn't see us landing Concepcion. And it was kind of weird because it didn't go, was sounding good, wasn't sounding good, and then he commits in science. So I am absolutely incredibly fired up to see what is going to end up happening with this receiver room in the future. Because, I mean, I think this is going to help Marcel Reed, which we'll talk about that in segment 3. I don't want to talk too much about that right now, but I mean, Coach Elko is just hammering this room. Also, you landed Madden Williams, the 2026 4-star receiver. So you're not just, and that happened yesterday as well, you're not just landing portal players, you're landing guys for the future as well. There's a lot to look forward to in this room. So if I had to talk about how the rotation is going to work itself out, that is interesting. That is a fun conversation. And I'll tell you all quick thoughts. This will be a segment 1, probably at some point here in the coming weeks, months. But, I think Concepcion immediately becomes your wide receiver. So I think the three guys out there become Concepcion. I think Noah Thomas, and I lean right now Craver. That's where I lean right now. Now, I think it'd be huge if Hudson could prove to be the guy. If Hudson takes over for one of these players, that would be ideal because we know what the upside is for him. We know what he's going to be able to become. So I think Noah Thomas, he's the veteran. He's proven he's done a lot well for this room throughout his career. I think you're going to see him play a lot of snaps next year. I think Concepcion, I could see him being a 1,000-yard receiver. Now, a lot of people, the issues with this room and the issues with these additions, people are saying, well, who's throwing him the ball? That is a question. And we'll talk about that more in segment 3. So the 1,000 yards, it might feel like a bit of a stretch, knowing that you're relying on a quarterback that you could argue don't have a ton of trust in. But I'm still in belief that he is going to be really, really good for Marcel Reed is and lead this offense to a high level. So, I mean, there's no sugarcoating this in a negative light at all. This is massive for Texas A&M. You have rebuilt this room to go from a weakness to arguably the best position on this roster, just like that. Boom. I love the Coach Elko video. Hey, ask me about the receiver room. Ask me in a couple weeks. Heck yes. Ask him now that it's one of the best units, maybe in the SEC. And there'll be people that'll say, Concepcion, Craver, Hudson, they're mid. It's a mid. It's a mid room. They're all mid. No, they're not. Yeah, you've got to, I think fans, you got to be able to admit when rivals, opposing teams have done well. A&M's done a heck of a job in the portal receiver. This room, I'm going to title this episode, Texas A&M has taken something along the lines of Texas A&M has taken their wide receiver room from a weakness to one of the best units in the SEC, and people are going to gripe and people are going to whine. They're wrong. This unit is elite. Go to work today. Go to work tomorrow. Proud of Texas A&M's wide receiver room, knowing this room is elite and it's one of the best units in the SEC. And if Marcel Reed is able to get him the football, Texas A&M is going to get a lot done in the passing game. This offense is going to be very, very, very scary. We'll talk more about that in segment 3. Excuse me. I cannot get this cold to go away, ladies and gentlemen. I literally wake up and my voice is hoarse. It's been terrible. I really apologize. Hopefully this will take an ibuprofen. Hopefully it's going to go away. We'll see. But it's weird because it's just like a sore throat. I don't really feel it's interesting. Very, very interesting. But we're going to talk about this defense because now that this offense is in such a good spot, we're fired up at it. How can this defense be good as well to just flat out make Texas A&M an elite team? We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app premium features. Listen, this was a game changer for me. I didn't think I was paying for any extra subscriptions, and then I get it. I was paying 3 monthly subscriptions. It was like an $8 subscription, a $7 subscription, and a $10 subscription. So we're talking about, was that 25? Yes, 25. Yeah, your local loving Locked On Aggies host is terrible at math. Yes, 25. I was right. I need to trust my gut. About $25 a month I was spending on things I wasn't even using. Rocket Money is the best. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. So, in all honesty, ladies and gentlemen, I think the defense is now the question when it comes to this Texas A&M team for next season. We feel good about offensive line. I think we feel pretty good about running back. We feel great about receiver. We feel solid about quarterback. We feel pretty good about tight end. You're kind of figuring it all out there. The question is now becoming, what's going to happen within this defense? And this defense at times this year, let's fully run through the numbers again. I don't think you can argue. If I had to give the defense a season-long grade this year, I would probably give it a B+, kind of like we said for the secondary. I think that's pretty. You gave up to Notre Dame 23 points, to McNeese 10, Florida 20, Bowling Green 20. Man, I keep forgetting that game was so close. Arkansas 17, Missouri 10, Mississippi State 24, LSU 23, South Carolina 44, Auburn 43, Texas 17, USC 35. So you kind of slowly started to, as you wore out throughout the season, 44, 43, 17, and 35 points to your last, big-time opponents, obviously excluding New Mexico State. You kind of wore down. It was a lot better early in the year. But I mean, and you had some great players in Nick Scorton, who was darn good for you this season. And then of course Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart. You had some great defensive players. Will the Blanket Lee. You had some really good defensive players this year. But at the same time, there were some issues. The secondary was an issue at times. Tackling was an issue at times. You ended up only totaling 25 sacks compared to, I believe, 42 the year before. So I mean, you decreased a total of 17 sacks from the last year to this year, because I believe we had 42 in the previous season. So 17 sacks difference. I mean, this defense just, I would say it was good, but it wasn't elite. And I kind of thought it was going to be elite. So I'm a little bit, I don't know if I'd say disappointed, and hey, you're losing a lot of players, a lot of your great defensive linemen. So, I mean, in the secondary, I think you feel okay about the young guys. You got Will the Blanket Lee. There's still some names that are going to stick around, but some from last year. And then, but here's my question. I wrote down two names, okay? DJ Hicks, and I wrote down Des Ricks. So here's my question. Now that it looks like you have an opportunity to have an elite offense next season, do we feel confident rolling out these players, DJ Hicks, Des Ricks? Do we feel confident rolling those guys out? Or do we need to go get new bodies in this room? I mean, Des Ricks did not have a good season. DJ Hicks was okay. I mean, there were some flashes, there were some signs, but we still haven't seen that 5-star flash yet. So my question is, I mean, are there some players that we are anticipating being good, right? I think DJ Hicks is a good example. And he's been fine, that we're like waiting on, and maybe we're not going to go get this elite player in the portal because of the upside of this player already on the team. So what I'm saying is, now that you've really improved this offense, Texas A&M has a chance to do something really special offensively next year. And you do not, knowing you have a defensive minded head coach, want your defense to be the issue for your team. I think they need to start adding bodies. You've already brought in some edge rushers. I think you need some big boys in the middle on defense. I feel pretty good about linebacker with Terrion York and Scooby Williams and then some of the young guys. I feel solid there. I think you need a few big bodies in the middle and a few additions in the secondary. I mean, it's just secondary has been an issue for Texas A&M over the last few years. And I think that we have got to see these issues be fixed at some point. I mean, it is really frustrating to time in and time out see the secondary just get torched. I mean, that's just the reality. So got to improve. And I think it's partially development. I think another offseason. I think partially it's bringing some more players in via the portal. I think there are a lot of ways that they can improve on some of these things. So I'm excited to see what next year looks like. But I mean, and you brought in, what's the kid from Georgia's name? I'm terrible with names right now. Is it Humphrey? What was his first name? Julian Humphrey. You already brought in Humphrey. And then obviously you're bringing in Mpimba and Hayes and Searcy on the defensive line to come off the edge for you. Feel solid about the edge, and with how well, Cassius Howell played, feel good about the edge for next year. The question is interior defensive line and secondary. Feel good about linebacker, in all honesty. So if you can fix interior defensive line play, I'd go get a couple bodies done. You're losing a lot of talented players there. And then going to get secondary players, I think that this Texas A&M defense can be really good next year. But like I said, Texas A&M has got to find a way to have the defense be as good as the offense or better. I would be awful frustrated if a defensive-minded head coach in year two, it's no longer year one for Coach Elko, in year two had these type of struggles on defense. I really want to see improvements happen here. And I think that you're going to see that. I'm not too concerned about it. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about it. But what I'm saying is I think a lot of people feel pretty good right now about the defense. I don't think I think that I have a little bit more concern about the defense than some others, whether on social media, listeners here, everydayers here. So I would try and plug holes in more holes in the portal. I just think, especially if you go get a couple upside guys, I think some upside guys would help. I think some veteran guys would help, some rentals, 1-year rentals, whatever you need there that gives you an upside for the rest of the season. That's how I would plug this defense. But I think those are the two big things for me: is interior defensive line and secondary. So let me know in the YouTube comments, what are y'all's thoughts on the defense? Am I too concerned about it? Is it not that big of a deal? Do we need to improve the defense at all? Let me know that in the YouTube comments. I'm really anxious to hear what everyone has to say. Think there's some things to fix. Y'all might disagree. I want to hear what y'all have to say about improving this defense, taking it to the next level. We're going to talk a little bit about how if Marcel Reed takes that jump next year, this Texas A&M offense is going to be something we haven't seen in a long time. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So, Texas A&M this offseason, like last offseason, you head into this year feeling pretty darn good about who your quarterback is. I've seen some people liking Zeno in the portal. I don't know if I'm buying it personally. I'm all in on Marcel Reed. I think that there's a lot of people out there that look at Marcel Reed. So here's if you are a naysayer of the upside of Marcel Reed, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to leave in the YouTube comments an answer. If you feel this way, if you don't believe in the upside of him, why? In today's age of college football, we see players all the time that have his ability with his legs be elite performers in college football right now. If he can develop as a passer, which he will, he hasn't played a lot of games. He's going to continue to get better and better and better. And you gave him weapons. That's the big thing too. People are saying, well, Texas A&M doesn't have quarterback for all these weapons. They didn't have weapons for the quarterback. It's a both sides argument. So I just think there's a lot of people out there. You can't look at the way Marcel Reed plays the game with his legs and say, he can't take that step as a passer and be an elite college football quarterback, because he can. That is the reality. If he develops as a passer this offseason, Texas A&M is going to be really, really good next year, because we know how good the offense is going to be around him. We think his offensive line is going to be pretty darn good. We feel really, really good about the upside there. So this offense, if Marcel Reed takes that next step, which I believe he's going to, will be dominant next season. And I in all honesty, can't wait to see it, because there's so many people hating on Marcel Reed and being negative at Marcel Reed and not believing in the upside there. I see it. He's just got to be a little more accurate passing the ball and make a few more, less poor decisions. If he does those things, this Texas A&M offense is going to be elite next season. And I think he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC because of what he brings to the table as a passer and a runner if he develops. So once again, if you don't believe in the upside of Marcel Reed, please leave in the YouTube comments why y'all feel that way. I'm really curious to hear thoughts. I'm not saying you could try and convince me. I want to hear people's thoughts on that. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you, even the Texas fans that tune in. But hope everyone has a great rest of their day today, and we will see y'all tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.